Hello and welcome back to freedomtv.info, where we talk about your crypto and freedom from the man. I'm right here, hex.com. That's correct. And I have a very special people that I'm going to bring on to our stream. It's HexRayVision and Crypto Heartbeat, the one and only. So let me go ahead and bring them in and say hello. How you doing, guys? Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm shout out to you, Crypto Heartbeat. You've been doing a great job and touting Pulse and really educating people on the airdrop, because I feel that's important on getting people their doubling, right? And so, and a big congratulations to you, because you had 5,555 subs. So go
It's
ahead.
huge milestone, and just overwhelmed by how fast things have grown last 60 days. I never imagined this when I started the first video, which was really just because I watched a meetup with Richard talking about, basically the sacrificers providing liquidity. So incredible. I'm just overwhelmed by it. People have been so incredible, and it's just the best community in crypto, in my opinion.
Awesome. So HexRayVision, where were you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I decided to be an old man and stay home during all the parties in London and all the parties in New York, and just try to crank out some consistent streams and some content for the Hexicans. So I've just been, just hanging out, drinking warm milk, going to bed early, that kind of thing.
You know what? I did see your stream with David Feeder. That was one of the best, I think, technical one streams that anybody, bar none,
Oh,
absolutely anybody wants to go technical with David Feeder and HexRayVision, go watch that. It was really like, if you really want to know, go down the rabbit hole, definitely that was the stream to watch, especially
thank
about the pulse swap and the airdrop and how it's going to work internally.
Yeah, I think that, I had so many questions about, not only for myself that I didn't understand, but even some of the things that I did understand, I couldn't put into English for the people that were coming to me and asking me technical questions. I was like, well, I kind of think it works like this, and I kind of mean, you'd get on GitLab or whatever, and you'd read the commits and people, adding stuff to the code. And I would call my friends and ask them what it meant, but I wasn't good at conveying that information. And I really wish we had a lot more questions for David, because David Feeder's much more intelligent than he thinks he is. And he's much better at translating nerd to English than he thinks he is. And so we're going to be doing that again on Sunday. So this next Sunday, if he can make it, we're just going to have another hangout and just fire a bunch of questions at him. So join us on my channel on Sunday and ask your questions in chat, or stream with us and ask them live, and we'll get as much information out of this redhead genius that we can.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and, like, because everybody wants to know, right? Like the pulse swap, any information, any of the airdrop, right? And how's that going to work? So what did you find out, HexRay?
Basically, what we know right now is, this morning, Richard tweeted that he wants the swap sacrifice to go down before the end of the year. And this being December means hopefully this month. So, fingers and toes crossed, we get that sacrifice, because when he was on an interview with Superman in England, he said that the mainnet launch should follow the sacrifice within 3 or 4 weeks. So, best case scenario, we're looking at sometime in January. But I, I don't want to get my hopes too high, because I've just been desperate for Pulse Chain to come out since Halloween. That's when I was really hoping it would come out. And you get delays, and code is hard, and especially code connected to money is even harder. And so obviously they want to get this right, and I'm trying to be a good little Hexican. I'm trying to be patient, you know, and say my prayers at night and wait for the pulse chain Santa to come. But oh, it's rough. It's tough. It's tough hanging in there because I'm trying to reassure all of the people, hey, it's going to be okay. We're only going to dip so far, and then it's like a slingshot to the moon. So, you know, buckle in because it's going to happen faster than you think it when it starts happening.
So what about you, Heartbeat? Do you have the heartbeat on the pulse?
Well, it depends on what part you want to talk about. I'm just excited as I can possibly be, and you know, everybody's got a different approach, but you know, all of this hopium. I just am a positive person in general, and so to me, you know, seeing so many people who are just being in a position to have an abundance, to me, it's just a watershed moment. It's a game changer for so many people, and I just love when people win. In this, you know, blockchain, especially, you know, with Hex and especially Pulse Chain, it's such a exercise in winning together, and you know, rising tide lifts all boats. And so, you know, it's going to be crazy. I think about, you know, the anticipation right now. We get little bits of information from Richard. We're excited, but I'll tell you, this has never been done before. When you're copying over the entire system state, all the contracts, I mean, it's like, you know, I always say it's like a hand grenade that Richard's pulled the pin and handed to everybody, and it blows up at a different time for everyone. All these contracts and everything, when you build something that's, you know, better and faster, cheaper, you're just gonna, I think, pull so many users over. And really my dream, my prayer, my hope is that people just say, we don't need ETH 2.0. It's too difficult for these, you know, miners to get over this, to move the consensus model. We're just going to go with this, and I think we're going to pull so many users over because, you know, that's just painful. It's painful when you have a community of people that are built on the back of proof of work. Nobody wants to change. They like the gravy train. And so the idea that we can literally take over and make ETH 2.0, you know, obsolete would be my hope. So I think it is going to be faster, like HexRayVision said, faster than we think. And it's going to be nuts. I mean, just imagine what we're going to do, you know, the streamers especially.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because I was on a stream with Adam Stokes. I don't know if you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
Adam Stokes.
Yeah, shout out to him, by the
He's
way.
awesome. He's awesome.
He did a SWOT analysis on Pulse and Hex, which was kind of interesting if you look at his last video. You know, because he went through all the strengths and the weaknesses and the different what's going on, and you could kind of tell. It's like you could see, I mean, just in a perspective, you go analyze it like that, you know, Pulse is a no-brainer, I feel.
Yep.
So, you know, if anybody doesn't know, and anybody that's new to our channel, you know, there's going to be a systems doubling, right? Or an airdrop, a free airdrop of all your ERC20 tokens that's in the Ethereum mainnet, all the into the Pulse mainnet. And hopefully we're hoping, I'm going to say it here, I'm hoping this is just my opinion and my opinion alone. I think it's gonna be sometime in February. We're gonna have the airdrop. What do you guys think?
I think that's fair.
That's
Yeah.
fair, right?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I'm hoping 222. It's my favorite number, but yeah, I think after the new year makes the most amount of sense. And you know, as long as it's right, that's all that matters, right? Doesn't really matter when. It's just got to be right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, my first big boy stake comes out in the middle of February, and that's like got the big payday bonus and all that stuff on it, and I'm losing a ton of T shares on it. So I'm hoping to punt that as much of that as I can out 5555 to recover, or maybe even gain a little bit in the T share category, because I've just been watching the T share rate ratchet up, you know, 15 grand, 16 grand. It could very easily be 20,000 hex per T share by the time Pulse launches. And so, you know, it's really deceptive, that T-share ratcheting up, because people see it every day in Twitter. It's in the notifications, but they're not thinking about what's going on until they go to restake. And they go to restake for the same amount of time, and they're getting a fraction of the t-shirts that they got originally. And they're like, that's when it hits them. That's when it's like, I need to gobble all of the t-shirts I can as quickly as possible and lock them up as far in the future as possible, because they just won't be there in 15 years. We'll be lucky to get K shares in 15 years.
Right.
We're not getting B shares and M shares. We're getting K shares if we're lucky in 15 years, I believe, just because this is still pre-viral. I mean, people aren't even competing for T-shares except for the hexagons, right?
Right.
So what happens when billionaires and big money comes in and competes for those T-shares? I think we're going to see another giant spike in that T-share price in Hex.
So just so I know and we're clear, when did you get into Hex?
Who's that? Me or Crypto Heartbeat?
Crypto Heartbeat.
Okay, so when I got into crypto or got into Hex?
Both.
Okay, so I've told this story many times on my channel, but my brothers were really into computers. They're older than me. My oldest brother worked at Apple in the early days, and my next brother, he actually still works at Microsoft. And so bizarre, combination, but they were building their own computers back in the day. And it was a house full of nerds. And so I was, I was remotely interested at that time, but my brother he told me about crypto back in, it was early days, and he was trying to do mining on really bad hardware. And, it really was just a hobby, because it didn't mean anything at the time. Of course we didn't realize what the future would look like. And so, we played around with that stuff. And then later on, I got serious about it, thinking, well, a mining setup, and let's start doing some mining. And this is when Bitcoin was at $418. And we literally sat around with the team and said, this thing's going to have to double. It's going to have to get to like $800 for us to do, we're doing the calculations on electricity and on costs of the miners and all this stuff. And we're like, we'll do something else. Well, of course, the rest is history. And so it was funny. I was, fast forward, to, I don't know, I think it was probably 2019, 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. And I saw a TV ad on cable television, pictures of yachts and you being a billionaire. And I thought it was a multi-level marketing deal. And I'm in marketing. And so I'm paying attention to these things that are odd on television, because you're usually seeing Geico ads and automotive dealership ads. And here's this thing for really outrageous claims. And so I first thought it was network marketing. And so I pulled it up on my phone, and I'm like, hold on, this is crypto. And I thought, I'm going to check this out. And that's when I just decided, well, I'm just going to put my toe in the water. This is probably 10 days before big payday. And so I got in there, but I, didn't get in big. And it's funny because I got in and of course saw that big dip, and I kind of forgot about it. I was watching Hexo pretty much every day just for fun at the end of the day, and just checking in on it, not really thinking anything about it, just to say, hey, just take a flyer on this. And of course, as things really started growing and we hit a penny and then kept going and kept going and kept going, I remember being at dinner with my family, and I'd be like, that crypto thing I got into? And I kept giving them an update on where it was. And my wife would say pretty much every day I would bring it up, she'd say, that's not real money. And I was like, I don't know how to prove this to you. And so my daughter turned 16 in the stake end, and then I bought her a car. And I asked my wife, I said, does this car look real to you? And so that's the story of getting into Hex. And of course, when I heard about Pulse Chain, I said, this is my opportunity. And so, yeah, so that's where we are. And of course, I saw Cece, who was the CEO of Liquid Loans. And I saw him talking about Hex, and I got to find this guy's content, and I couldn't find it anywhere. I was like, this is the kind of guy, this is how I want to talk about Hex. I couldn't find anything from him. And so I literally said, I'm going to create I was inspired by the way he shared things. And I said, I'm going to do a channel with that in mind. And so he's the inspiration for this channel. And that's probably more info than you wanted.
No, that's what we want to hear. We want we want the nitty gritty here.
That's the nitty gritty. Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
ahead, Tony.
No. I mean,
I was going to ask, what's your secret sauce? Because this morning, congratulations. I was in the chat. You invited me on stream, and I didn't want to get out of bed. And so I just laid in bed and hung out in the comments. But congratulations on 5555 subscribers on YouTube. And when did you start your channel?
October 1st.
October. Everyone that has a struggling YouTube channel right now is just biting their tongue. No, I'm serious. That's awesome. Congratulations. But there is something special about your style of delivery and the people that you present your information to and that you relate to. That is, it's like there's a huge black hole in crypto, which is you said old people, women, and animals.
Animals, yes.
Yeah, you want to get all those people into crypto, and a lot of us have been asked the question: how do we get women into crypto? How do we get women into Hex, and how do we grow our community? And so I think that, what do you think it is about your special sauce or your style of delivery that's caught on so quickly?
So I don't know exactly. I think more of it's just, I think the fact that I got gray hair, right? The fact that I'm, I've been a professional. I've built businesses. I think that I'll be honest with you, I think one of the big things I was frustrated with was Richard in some of his comments, and he's really toned that down. But I'll be honest with you, I felt like a financial instrument, and Hex is brilliant, right? And we've got devs, we've done software development, we've done all this stuff. And I saw CC talk about Hex. I'm like, this is the way you talk about this, because in my opinion, and this is, this is a choice. I see him over and over again in the early days, taking a gun out and shooting himself directly in the foot. And the other day when he commented on stream, when I encouraged people to watch, and he said something about sucking his balls, which I even can't believe I'm even saying. And I was like, this is so offensive. And there's so many people who are legitimate people who are really taking this seriously and doing exactly what Richard wants. And it's shooting himself right in the foot. And now that's changed. And I want to see the best in him. And so when I watch these meetups, that's why I'm always praising Richard when I see him, because when he's around people that he's safe with, he is one of the most wonderful, considerate, kind people I've ever seen, as smart as anyone or smarter. But I really feel like if we're going to attract professional people and we're going to attract endowments, because that's one of the things I come from, is there's billions upon billions of dollars in the nonprofit endowment world, but they would not touch Hex with a 10-foot pole if it's, top hats and Louis Vuitton, because they're conservative, safe plays. But this is one of the greatest contracts ever. And it's almost like, how do you draw people and say, no, this is a place where you should feel comfortable putting a portion of your endowment. And that's, in my opinion, what Hex needs. That's why I'm so excited about Pulse Chain, is that we have to have people where, but there are a ton of people who judge things right by its cover. And if they get any sense that things are not authentic and not legitimate, it's all a circus to them. And so they're just out. You lost. Not to bring any political commentary, but this is a big reason that Trump had issues, is that he was not disciplined. And the lack of discipline creates a scenario in which people will just literally turn you off. You've lost them because of your style. And so, I jokingly say, Dad only beats us when he's drunk. And, you think about Richard in that scenario. It's like, well, we keep making excuses. Well, yeah, because he's absolutely brilliant in all this, but he's made a choice to be the most thoughtful, vision-focused, kind person. But he's dealt with so much pressure over the years that I'm just so excited about this next season, this next chapter, because I think he is going to become the philanthropist, the person who is focused on changing the world and bringing that out, because he wrote the books, he did all this stuff, but he went through this phase where everybody was against him. And that defensive position of having to defend yourself all the time creates this stuff. And I really do think that if I could, give any advice to Richard, which I know he probably wouldn't take for me, is I would say, get rid of the flashy stuff and tell us about how you're going to change the world with our help. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear how you fixed money, you changed the very nature of people's wealth. Now show us where to go with this abundance and how we can change the world and make people's lives better. And I'm going to tell you, he would have millions of people following him if that was the narrative instead of, watches. There's a disconnect that comes with this idea of being authentic. And you ask me, why is the channel growing? Because I'm authentic. I tell people the truth and I'm professional about it. And I feel like that's what we need if we're going to get real professional money. The great thing, though, is it's attracted all the pirates in this world, right? We are a band of pirates. And I think what's great about that is people that love this, like, basically we're going to put a boot in your face. And, there's a time for that, right? It galvanized this community. But the future, if we're going to really become mainstream, we talk about being pre-viral, we're going to have to treat it for what it is, the best financial instrument ever created on the blockchain. But it's gotta match. And if it doesn't match, people turn it off. And that's why I did what I did. And that's why I continue to do what I do, because I feel like rising tide lifts all boats. Once people understand it and they feel like it's authentic, I mean, that's where it goes to the moon. Anyway, that's my soapbox.
No. You're right. See, you got the pulse on the heartbeat of the pulse chain.
That's right.
And the hex. I mean, that's why I watch you, and that's why I appreciate what you're putting on the table, because I'm in the same, like, I want that too.
Yeah.
If we want professionalism, and I come from banking. I mean, this is my background, business advisor. I want a little bit more of a centralized marketing, out there. Not that the crypto is centralized, it's the marketing and the education to be a little bit more centralized, where we have, you're touting this. I heard you say the Pulse Promise and the Compassion Cartel, right? You mentioned some of these projects for to do these endowments through Hex, because I do see this is legacy, right? Legacy building endowments, or even nonprofits that can benefit from this, so that whatever you're wanting to change in the world in a positive light, it could be funded by Hex, right?
Oh yeah,
on the Pulse chain, powered by Pulse, right? So
Yeah, can you go a little bit more into sharing with the Freedom TV audience what the Compassion Cartel and the Pulse Promise is?
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. So, and I want to make one note about my last article of Richard. He's done an amazing job to get us where we are. I mean, reinvented money. But I do think what's really cool is I see this side of him that's so attractive. And that side of him is his passion for making the world a better place. And that just speaks directly to my heart. And when I see it, especially when I see how he would pick up Hodl Dog, and he embraced these guys at the gathering. And I don't know if you saw the interview with Hexo. It was like they were best friends. And I always kind of felt like that Richard would be standoffish, and he wasn't at all. He's extremely warm. And so that's why there's this authenticity disconnect, because everyone I ever say anything about the watches and all that kind of stuff, and people go, oh, that's just to attract new people. And I go, well, he doesn't even treat it seriously. He's not really into it. It's more of a bit. And when it's a bit, it's not authentic. And so I just want to see more and more of what, he wrote self-help books. I mean, he really invested his time before all of this stuff to really help people get off playing video games and stop smoking and working out or whatever it may be. And to me, that's the real Richard. The real Richard isn't a guy who's just being flashy, because that's surface stuff. He's actually very substantive and very deep and very, very smart ahead of time. But I'm just
So
taking the lead. Go ahead. Sorry.
you're offering him a compliment, really,
Right.
with this critique. Is you're saying you're selling yourself short,
Oh, yeah.
Richard. You have so much more to give, and you have such a wonderful vibe and energy to put out into the world. You know, if we focus on that, then that's going to help our community grow faster than the things that are stunts, you might say.
Yeah. And it's a strategy. And I agree, borrowing from, rich people do follow big brands. And so it is a strategy, and it's an effective one. I do think a lot of the younger people that are drawn to that are not the people that have the money. And I think that the people big money, and I don't mean trust fund folks. I mean people who have built businesses and created massive wealth, or run big firms, and have access to endowments, or have venture capital type of funds. Those people are smart like Richard, and a lot of those people are looking for, a lot of times we made a ton of money. Well, tell me how we're going to make an impact. And so that's really what the Pulse Promise is all about, is this idea. My calling in life is to unlock global generosity. It's to help people around the world that realize that the greatest thing you can possibly do is to give, not receive. And to see this change in the financial system, and people embracing really an abundance mentality versus a scarcity mentality, it's a game changer for the world. And we're at the absolute front end of it, and especially with the Pulse chain. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to lead out by giving. I'm going to commit $100 of my sacrifice, which is not a lot, right? Just $100, which is 1,000,000 Pulse points, which will be 1,000,000 Pulse ideally. So this is the concept of first fruits. Like, literally, we had a harvest, and this is the first, and I'm going to give this away. Now, I don't care where you give it, right? I just want people to say, you know what? I'm going to join this challenge with you. It's a community challenge. It's not a blockchain deal. It's literally just a group of people saying, sure, I'll do the same thing. And I'll give this $100 of sacrifice to whatever causes I'm about. That is what we're going to do at pulsepromise.com. Is we're going to basically enable you to check in, and in your separate MetaMask wallet, say, hey, here's where that resource is. And we're going to count and show a counter that shows the total value of Pulse based on the Pulse price at that time. And so for the next couple of years, you'll be able to go to that site and go, wow, this is the potential impact. You challenge 999 other people to do the same thing. Telegram group called the Compassion Cartel. And that if we work together, is that we would collude with one another to make a bigger impact. And if you think about the De Beers family, which is the largest diamond cartel, the whole point is, when you work in a group to help each other win, what's going to happen is people are going to connect based on their passions. And that's really my goal. Is I want people to say, you know what, I want to make the world a better place, and be other people that are passionate as I am and will join me. And so this is just a place where people come together and they go, let's get together based on what we care about in this world. And I think a lot of solutions are not just based on money, because if they were, we'd have solved those problems by now with money. And it's really about relationships and connections, and people thinking in terms of generosity, but also sustainability. Because, I'm not a big fan of handouts. I'm a big fan of people have the kind of systems and business models where they can sustain themselves. They don't have to rely on a handout. And I've been in the nonprofit world for the last 20 years, and it's just a never-ending cycle of feeding bears who, keep coming back and end up, devouring you. That's the ethos of Pulse Promise and the Compassion Cartel, is just generous people getting together to try to solve problems and make the world a better place.
And so the cartel goes hand in hand with the game theory that you've mentioned before with Mr. Nash. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Nash Equilibrium is really, I love it. And it's really, this is all from Richard, right? All I'm doing is packaging what Richard's already said. And that is that, hey, in order to win, I have to be concerned about what makes you win. And why are we even spending time on this stream? It's because Richard's helped us win. And why I trust him so much. And there's a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know. The reason I trust him so much is that Richard doesn't get what he wants unless we get what we want. He wants to be the king of crypto. He wants the respect. He wants to show everybody he was right. Well, you can't show everybody you're right when you don't create incredible products that bring tremendous value to people. And so I automatically, because I know that he wants to win and he's not going to do anything until he does. And so I'm hitching my, mine to his wagon so that we can win together. And that's really the core purpose of game theory, at least with Nash Equilibrium, is I don't not only think about my own interests, but I also think of the interests of others. And when I do that, we win together. And that's the spirit of decentralized crypto.
Perfect. So one of the things that I thought, well, I think it's a great way for especially nonprofits, because I've been helping nonprofits for a while, is they're always every year they have to re-raise their funds, re-raise new funds, re-raise new funds.
Yep.
So if you can give now like one time and lock it up for 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, right? Or even have a ladder every year. So every year they would have this initial nest egg to actually take out, right? And fund whatever projects that we need to do. I mean, I feel that's one way or solution that we can use Hex.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, you think about what is an endowment. An endowment is really you're raising excess dollars and using the interest that comes off, or the yield that comes off of it. And that's what, the largest nonprofits in the world have amassed, these giant endowments. But that's really the function of this certificate of deposit, right? And so actually it's funny, we're working on a blockchain project on the Pulse chain that really reflects the endowment process like that, because you're absolutely right. Being able to lock up your money and then be able to pull your interest, if you will, which is really yield for operations, makes you sustainable. That's the whole point. You think about somebody that wins a bunch of money or gets a bunch of money, it's like never, ever touch the principal, ever. That's the whole point. That's the golden goose. And that's what's baked into Hex. And that's why it's so, you're absolutely right.
So another thing that I was thinking is also, because it's on the blockchain, if you have, it's transparent, right? You know
Totally.
exactly how much of even different ERC20 tokens, or even, because people are going to give in different tokens, right?
Yep.
And they can actually track like what happens to that value, right?
It's so right. And, I'm doing an interview tomorrow with the CEO of a company called Liveful, and they're working on how do you measure actual impact on the blockchain? So, for example, you give money right now, you give money to an organization and you don't know where it goes. You don't know how it gets there. Did it make it to the end result? What they're doing, which I super admire, and I really encourage you to watch that when it comes out next week, is how do you go about measuring impact, and how do you create it in a scenario where it's tradable like carbon credits? And so you're going to see a future. This group is working on, to me, one of the most incredible innovations as it relates to measurement of impact, so that people that have money, it's really funny. They, and this is a soapbox as well. There's a thing called a donor advised fund, and it's really a tax strategy to get your tax deduction and then be able to direct your money in the future. There are billions upon billions of dollars tied up in what are called donor advised funds. And it's really a strategy the wealthy use to lower their adjusted gross income. And the problem with it is there's all this money parked that was intended to go to nonprofits and charitable organizations, but is locked up in these groups because the donors haven't advised them to give them away. And so the future of investing, in my opinion, is really this idea of I want to make a profit because that's sustainability. But I also want to have a double bottom line where impact is important. But if you can't measure it and you can't prove to people on the blockchain it actually made it to its end result, they don't have a lot of trust and faith. And so I think that there's a part of this whole thing is measurement is an absolutely critical piece to make sure that impact actually happens. And that's the key to transparency, what you're talking about.
Yeah. Imagine, let's go like push it the envelope a little bit. So what if your tax dollars can be tracked and transparent that way? You know exactly what every single dollar goes, did it really go to pay for road work, right? So I feel we're on the right track, right? So if let's get these things. I'm with you. Let's get these
Yeah.
things done. Let's get some actions. Now, just so you know, and I'm pretty sure you know this, so that's one of the reasons why Freedom TV stepped up to the plate and said, hey, we're gonna do we organized the meetup in Vegas. We started the road tour with organizing the road tour for Crypto Shababak, and we're co-executives producers for that. And so and that's why we want to get the word out, educate people, because that's the only time I can see is getting the meeting of the minds, like face to face. People, I know HexRay, you did a great job. Thank you, bar none, with hosting the Salt Lake stop, and then of course in just supporting us in that way and getting the word out. One way is obviously we have the streams and the streamers that are taking out the word out, but also I just feel that when you do things in person, it's just there's a lot more energy in the room. Things get there's trust that is developed, and then you have these meeting of the minds and collaboration that happens organically, right? So that's why, like, I feel one of the things that we are doing here is, and also with the new conference coming up in 369, uh, is to really, what are we going to build on the pulse chain, right? Like, we have to get these meeting of the minds, get promoted your certain dApps that are going to be built on there. What are their functions? Are they, can they be audited? Are they going to be audited by a third party? They have a soapbox or a springboard. If it brings a good case value to the pulse chain, onboarding tools that need to happen, especially if you're talking about getting this this endowment funds and whatnot. We need to have that springboard and that trust so that you know exactly where your dollars are going. You know how to onboard new people in a very efficient way. I mean, that's one of the things that I've heard a lot about Hex. It's not easy to onboard, right?
Yeah.
There's 2, 3, 4 steps that has to happen. If you're not in crypto, if you're a total non-coiner or never been in crypto at all, it's hard to wrap their minds around it. But once they start seeing it and how it works, I think people start seeing, oh, it's not any different than a PayPal or account or your bank account when you use your merchant services or anything like that for businesses.
Yeah, I think one thing to me is you hear Richard talking a lot about how terrible MetaMask is. What's the future? What does it look like? And, I always compare it to typing in IP addresses to get to websites before there were domain names. And I think, one of the things that's a challenge there is, here's freedom.tv, right? Or freedom TV. There's yeah, .info. There's this whole concept of freedom and sovereignty and independence that I think is one of the core tenets of the blockchain in general. And in order to preserve that, you have to have this non-identifiable, non-custodial, immutable type of thing, and the security where you can be anonymous. And I think that actually, it's actually an attribute, right? It's a feature, not a bug. But a lot of people are just not sophisticated, and in order for things to be get people onboarded easily, there are some steps, but that's really for your own good and protection. But if you're going to be a purist, decentralized exchanges, they are easier, but they're also dangerous, right? Richard talks about you having to beg for your money. I think that, with the ETFs and all this stuff, they're trying to make it easier for people to get their money into it. But there's something I always a little fearful of, because I care so much about personal freedom and sovereignty. And it's like, Well, okay, so you have to go through a couple steps, but you own your coins. You've got your keys. That to me matters, because I think that what's happening in the world is all of these nation states and all of these global folks are trying to make digital dollars so that you can keep track of the money. And, with KYC stuff in the United States, they want to know your wallet address. They want to know where your money is. They don't want you to be off the grid, if you will. And, that's a battle that's going to be, fought in the future over, having to give up your identity to your wallet address. And, it's a give and take. And I just don't know I think the jury's still out on that, if we can actually make it easy and secure and safe at the same time.
Well,
Yeah,
that's why let me chime in, because this is my domain right here. Because definitely, one of the things that I want to tout, especially if you're in crypto and if you have mad gains in Hex and Pulse, even in Pulse Swap, it is our responsibility to be on the vanguard to pretty much all these politicians that are making new laws all over the world, not only in the United States, in every single jurisdiction, is to be, we have a vote. We still have a voice that we can actually pretty much mold how crypto has to be, because I don't want to see a police state in the future where you can't do a sell or buy or sell, or even because now you're a terrorist or considered some kind of bad person, and they're going to be like looking at you, and you have Big Brother over here, and so now you can't even do business. And so that's not what this is all about. This is about free enterprise. I feel crypto number one has to be free enterprise system. That's how this country was brought up to be, right?
Yep.
And anybody can go into business for themselves. It wasn't about going yes boss, yes boss, yes boss, you know what I mean, and getting a paycheck and just going back and forth, and not being just being drudged down, and pretty much taking your whole livelihood away from you through inflation. And that's where I'm done with that. I do not want to participate in the Federal Reserve System any longer, because it's not going to be a place where I want my kids and my kids to be in. That's why I feel crypto is the new reset, our new reset, not their reset,
Right.
To bring about this new way of doing business. Because like even in the educational system, I'm seeing it here in Las Vegas, Nevada. They're even gatekeeping, stupid people, because you have these your regular public schools, and then you have these magnet schools that you supposedly, it's like by lottery, which is BS. It's by pretty much performing this computation and getting the monies from tax monies from this person to this person, and gatekeeping knowledge.
Yep.
That's exactly what's happening. Sorry, I gotta get. I'm
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
all right, because
this is like standing around a fire getting warmed by your passion. I love it, Tony.
Yeah.
I love it.
Sorry, I just this is what makes me burn up in this. Why we incorporated freedomtv.info in the state of Nevada, because I feel one of the last states that are really good to do business and free enterprise is the state of Nevada. Delaware's the other one, and of course Wyoming. I feel Wyoming also.
Yep.
But that's part of the knowledge that we need to have as Hexicans and Pulsicans, or even crypto people in general, because you're going to have this value over here in the virtual world, right? Say that you made $100 million in value in crypto, but because there's this gate called the exchanges, right? I'm not going to name them. You're right. So to go into the real world, that's, what's the use to having $100 million if I can't use it, right, in the real world?
I knew HexRay had something.
I was just going to say that, there's a reason that Richard used the sacrifice phase to say this is a political statement that you believe in freedom of speech, because money is speech, right? You're expressing what you value by who you give your money to. And so for them to try to control that is the same thing as them controlling, speech and any other basic human right.
Yep.
So that's really what it boils down to is, are you free to be a sovereign human being, or are you property of them? If you're property of them, they can control you. But if you own yourself, then these are things that they shouldn't control.
Yep. And that's a big, I think there is a war. And, Tony, you just said it really well. And it gives me chills actually to think about this based on what I've read, is this idea that there would be a time when, unless you have their approval. And I don't know if that rings true for anyone who's read their Bible, but, this idea of there being a mark, and that mark, if you think about it, I don't know if you've ever heard of anyone saying, well, if you don't have this thing, you can't travel. You can't go into this place or that place. And you think of all of these, countries and groups wanting to have digital dollars and digital currencies. There's a reason for it, because it's trackable. But, you think about this, just like on one end where authoritarianism increases, on the other hand, freedom does as well. And I think that you're doing the right thing by sharing with people, what are the steps I need to take to be able to have my own self-sovereignty? Because, I believe that the human heart is corrupt above all else, and you give people power and resource and all of that, and they will lord it over you. And so this is a miracle, in my opinion, for freedom and self-sovereignty, and it's going to be a clash. But you have to protect yourself, and I think we're going to see places and regions and places around the world that are really going to embrace this idea of self-sovereignty, and it's going to be a battle. And I hope we don't find ourselves soon into a scenario where you have to have this digital identifier in order to buy and sell, because I almost see it happening soon.
It's right. You have the last 2 years, we've been through this pandemic, and it's kind of like the precursor, I feel.
Yep.
You have these cards in New York. You could not go to a restaurant without your COVID card.
Yep.
You had to show it. If not, they would not give you a meal. I was like, what? It's like, what if you're hungry? I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, they would let you order it and you have to go away, but you couldn't sit down. That was in New York.
Australia is one of the worst, and Austria.
Yeah.
You're seeing, they're saying you can't go to the grocery store without your Vax card. And you think about it, so you have to get someone else to go get food for you. And, it gets to that point where you're like, it's gone too far.
I think it's like, it's kind of weird. We're going back to 1940s where we had this, they had the Star of David.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing going on. I don't get it.
It's amazing to me that people don't learn from history.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was not that long ago.
Yeah.
My grandparents, my grandfather, he was on World War II. Louis Salazar, my grandfather, he was a mechanic on the Aviator. He talked about these things. And if we don't learn from our forefathers, we're just going to likely repeat.
Well, and one of the big fears is this idea of tribalism. I think a lot of people don't realize that in 1996, 1 million people were killed with machetes in Africa. And the whole idea of pitting one group against another, and that's where division goes, is that you get into these tribes and people, end up hating each other. And, Rwanda is probably one of the most recent stories of just what we can't imagine or fathom, but it happened. And the Belgian people know a lot about that. But it's a big concern, and that's my fear, is that they continue to do this. But to me, crypto is the antidote. This is the whole solution to this, is the fact that in a desire to get huge gains, the legacy financial system is going to actually take their own poison pill. And I believe that freedom will win, and that sovereignty will win in this process.
I hope so. That's what we're trying to tout. Overall, that's the macro fight that we're fighting here, is educating people about what's going on in the world and how it relates to you, right?
Yep.
And I get it. There's just been this erosion of, because you're trying to fit $100 bill to fit it to where $1,000 bill should go, right? Every month, I remember when I was a kid, because my parents, they're the ones that jumped the fence here in the United States to find the American dream, right? And I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I was given a bag of goods, and at the end of the tunnel, it wasn't it was hollow.
Yeah.
It was not what it was supposed to be. And so um they worked their butt off, and then they're now in their golden years, and you're like, okay, what is it, what's the future, right? What's the future for my kids and my kids' kids, right?
That
We have to stand up now, and it's in our constitution, right? This, the rights and the sovereignty of the people.
Yeah. So that's a great lead into what can we do, or what can endowments do to help further the cause of freedom and sovereignty. Like, let's say we get to the point where the Compassion Cartel can't find an endowment that we agree with, that aligns with our values. What could we do if we were to start our own endowment? What kind of actions do you think we could take to really not just unify people, but help restore and help people gain freedom in their lives?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's probably not the answer you'd expect from me. You know, because of the nature of freedom, I think that as we encourage people to be introspective and to be reflective in their own heart, that I think they'll be led to give to the things that are most urgent and important to them. I'm a big fan on the macro scale of investing in things that have impact. I believe in systems and processes that help people have opportunities. However, not everybody is in that boat, and it's not for me to dictate what anyone does and gives, because that's it's a personal decision. But I do think that the very nature of this abundance mentality and what Richard's done and what the blockchain has done, it's a miracle. It's really truly a miracle, because when was the last time somebody had a ton of power and a ton of resources and they decided to give it away? Last time I can remember was around the founding of America. And one of the things that's crazy is I love the musical. We were talking about musicals earlier. I love Hamilton. Right. And there's a song in Hamilton called One Last Time. And George Washington says, hey, I'm not going to run for president. He's like, what do you mean you're not going to run for president? And he goes, no, we're going to teach him how to say goodbye. And this really interesting thing that happened at the founding of America was these people said, you know what, because people are inherently, they have these, they're inalienable rights that were given by the creator, that they can be self-sovereign, and we're going to actually give away this power. Well, that's obviously gotten really messed up over the last 200 years. But what's fascinating about it is the blockchain is that same gift. When you have this completely transparent consensus model where we have to agree, it's taking something and giving it away, and it's unstoppable because it doesn't have a jurisdiction. It is something that is separated from the legacy system. And to me, the number one thing is what Richard's always said: fix money, help people have an abundance, and they will take care of the people they're called to take care of. The Compassion Cartel and really everything is really not to influence people. It's really just to get people to say, you know what, it's better to give than receive. And if you haven't done it before, you haven't really, for me, I literally pray for opportunities. And you know what? They always present themselves. And you know what? That's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing what I'm called to do. And the question I have is, what's your purpose? What are you called to do? It's not for me to dictate. That's your journey yourself. And so I think leadership is important to help people think about that. What was I created for? This is a very, very short time we have on this planet. I may want to spend a little bit of time thinking about what is my legacy going to be, and what do I care about? And so I think the best way to do it is, you don't have to have, sorry about that, you don't have to have everybody uniform, and you don't have to, I mean, that's where dictatorships come from. This is about the freedom to choose. And I believe that that's why we have a heart. so that we can have a heart for other people and invest in those areas. I'm a big fan of sustainability though. So, rather than just giving a hand up is probably more helpful.
Wow. No, well, so we're going to table this for another day because we can go really into the rabbit hole. I heard your alarm, and you probably have other things to do. I just want to wrap things up a little bit. Definitely you want to go to freedomtv.info to see where the next tour updates are. I know they're in Charlotte this coming weekend. Please look at if you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina region. Please come down and you can see on freedomtv.info and RSVP. The next stop after that is Atlanta, and then Orlando, and then the last one is in Miami before Christmas. So please be looking for that. Also, shout out to all of our Hexicans that showed up at the New York birthday, right? Second annual or birthday party, right? For Hex. It was really, really, really cool. I mean, the energy was ecstatic. We had 65 people there. It was we had an open bar. We had an NFL player from the Ravens come down. We had a heavy metal singer band guy come over. You can look at our channel and see it and who that was. I'm not going to reveal. You guys can watch. It was really, really interesting. We really wanted to support the 731 gathering in London, obviously, because we're on our tour. This is the way we could do it, our contribution. And you could see also on Maddie Allen's channel also that spectacle. I call it a spectacle because we even had the Hex birthday cake, right? And then also we had these cookies that Black Hexican got from Brooklyn. I don't know where she got them, but she's so awesome. She's, I don't know what I would do with without her in the tour, because she's pretty much our road manager. So she keeps us all in line. Shout out to her. But any other comments do you want to say?
Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna be doing a stream later today with the guys in that have the mattress store that are taking crypto. They're hoping to make it out to the Charlotte meetup, so they'll meet there. And I just want to say I'm really humble and grateful for all the work that the Hexicans are doing, whether it's the people on live stream, the guys on the road, like Julio and Rob, and Black Casey, Hexican, her whole crew. They're really amazing. When I met them in Salt Lake, they're all determined, they're all focused, and it feels like we're all working towards the same mission and the same goal, which is to reach as many people as we can and help them receive this gift of abundance, like you were talking about, and then letting them define and live life on their terms, which creates a whole better world for everybody. As grandiose as that sounds, I think it's real. I think it's true. So thank you so much for showing up and joining us, Crypto Heartbeat. It was great talking to you, and thank you, Tony, for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't wait to talk to you guys some more.
Yeah, this is fun. Tony, thank you so much for having me on. Sorry about the challenge on our timing. I won't let that happen again. But I just want to say, it requires leadership, and you're providing that leadership by, producing these road shows. I mean, this is making a significant difference, and it's guys like you who are putting together these events. And I think the more and more it's part of what really makes the community rich. And I just wanted to say I'll be at the meetup that you're hosting in Austin. Really excited about meeting my fellow Texan Hexicans.
Hexicans.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just honored and privileged to do this for the Hexicans. I think the Hexicans are one of the best communities to be part of, and of course, which is yourself also. You're part of that, and the whole. I got stars of an enamoration. I got some bromance going on here with Crypto Heartbeat.
Musical theater, man. That's what it is.
Right. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. And definitely one last thing, if you haven't gotten your tickets, please go and get your tickets to the 369 conference. Please be there. It's going to be great. If you want to know and learn more about Pulse, if you're a developer, please be there, because we're going to need you guys to really explain to us what can we build on the Pulse chain and network. You know, start collaborating with your brothers and sisters in Hex. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the flip side.
All right. Thank you.